Hello everyone. Razorblade Bingo here. And here we are, the final video of 2024. Man, did this year fly by. But I want to end the year by talking about my favorite story that happened this year. And of course, I think you all know what it is, but I want to add another element to it. And in the process, coin a new term that I don't know will ever happen again in my lifetime when it comes to this brand. At least as far as the exact same variables that happened with these two games this year and the company that released them. And the two games I'm talking about are Concord and Astro-bot, because it's an amazing scenario where these are two games that could not be more different, but they were released, they were actually announced fully, because you had Concord being announced in 2023, but with some dumb minute-long CGI trailer that showed us nothing. So technically it got revealed, we got to see what it really was earlier this year at the May State of Play, at the same time that Team Asobi's Astro-bot was finally revealed to the world. And the situations regarding how they were revealed, what the reaction to them like, and what their ultimate fates were could not be more different. So for the sake of this video, I would like to coin a new term that I have called the Astro-cord Dichotomy. And what I define the Astro-cord Dichotomy as is a situation when a publisher or developer releases two different games around the same time that are polar opposites to each other regarding internal company investment, reception from fans and critics, financial success, and cultural relevance. And I want to take all four of those points and kind of show the stark contrast between the two, because I'm sure there are some of you out there who are sick of me talking about Concord, who are probably even sick of me talking about Astro-bot and singing its praises. But I cannot put into words exactly how much I love this scenario, even if it doesn't really mean any actual change in the long run, which I have my doubts about, and I hate to rain on some people's parades. Like, I know Richard, I'm sorry, Richard, I know Richard's gonna listen to this. I'm sorry to rain on Richard's parade, but I don't think Astro-bot, I don't think Concord being widely rejected and being shut down and Astro-bot winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards is going to know any kind of big shift within PlayStation. I just don't, I'm too pessimistic about who they have running the show now to think in any realistic capacity that this is going to make some kind of difference. I really don't. Look, PlayStation loves their money. PlayStation loves their awards. They especially love their Game of the Year awards. But I don't think anyone of any consequence at PlayStation is going to look at Astro-bot winning Game of the Year at Keighley's The Game Awards and go, wow, we should make more of these. Wow, are we the ones that are wrong? Are we wrong about live services? No, I don't think that's going to happen. But so let's start with that, which is the internal company investment. Now, Astro-bot, I'm sure, obviously it was given the green light from people like Herman Hulst and Scott Rhodey. I mean, hell, they were mentioned directly in Nicolas Duché, the studio director and creative game director of Astro-bot. They were mentioned in his acceptance speech at the Game Awards, where he talked about how they encouraged him to keep going with Astro-bot, to flesh the little buddy out more. And there you go. It ends up being a big hit, wide acclaim, critical darling, fan darling, Game of the Year winning at Keighley's The Game Awards. I would argue maybe the most beloved, like all around beloved PlayStation game released this generation. And I really would like to know how much money they spent on this game, how much investment, how many of the higher ups actually cared about this game. because if you look at there's a chart that was floating around from one of their investment meetings where they said, oh, Astrobot is kind of like a mid-tier franchise. And I thought, that's kind of sad, because I think Astrobot deserves more respect. So I wonder how much, how much stock these higher ups at the company were putting into Astrobot, or if any of them actually saw the potential in them that I saw. The people, and when I mean the higher ups, I'm talking about the people above people like Herman Holst and Scott Rhodey, people like Hiroki Totoki or one of the other big wigs at Sony Corp, versus Concord, where Concord had, according to reports, this is all alleged, but I believe it, given PlayStation's delusions of grandeur recently, where they were running around talking about how Concord was going to be the future of PlayStation, how it was going to be their Star Wars, how they could take advantage of the IP for years to come. Just real wacko shit these corporate suits were saying to each other. And I put Herman Holst especially in that category, because if the story is true, he was the big champion of this game. He was the one, and I don't know if this was just him needing to prove himself while being the fresh face of PlayStation Studios at the time, or if he actually deluded himself into believing that this game was actually going to turn out to be great, that people will love Concord, because it wasn't just the game they had ready. It was, they had a controller ready. They had these multiple little short movies ready. They had these animated, cel-shaded movies ready. They had the secret level episode of Concord ready. Like, they were ready. Like, there is visible proof that they saw huge franchise potential in Concord. And the level of internal company investment between Astrobot and Concord could not have been more different. And now let's go to reception from fans and critics, which, yeah, I don't think I really need to expand on this when the evidence is so obvious, because you just have to go back to when that State of Play came out and look at the reception between Concord and Astrobot, where you had Astrobot, where that was, I think people very widely consider that the highlight of the presentation. I mean, that's true in my case. That's true in nearly everybody I've seen talking about that State of Play, where they went, oh yeah, Astrobot, clearly the best thing there. Astrobot saved the whole presentation from being just garbage, just crap. And then you have Concord, which right away, I think I was way more, I would say I was way less negative about Concord than some people were at the time. And even now, I still, like, I didn't hate Concord, the game. I just thought it was mediocre. And even at the time, I was willing to give it a chance and see what was up when that beta came out. But man, the reception was brutal. I mean, I guess I should have known that it was going to be brutal, because, spoiler alert, this is not at all the type of game that is going to appeal to PlayStation's niche audience, their hardcore audience that they have built up over the generations. There's no way. I don't know. Again, I don't know who at PlayStation was giving these speeches about how, oh, Concord is our next Star Wars. It's the future of PlayStation. It's going to be so good. It's going to be good. People will love it. People will love their Concord lunchboxes and their Concord branded dildos or whatever other crap they had coming out for Concord. But they should have known. They should have known, with the immense amount of dislikes that it got, the immense amount of mockery that Concord received, the immense amount, just absolutely brutal, ruthless comments that it got. I'm just surprised they still have those videos up on YouTube. I mean, you can go right now and look at the CGI reveal trailer and the gameplay trailers that were shown off at the State of Play in May on PlayStation's own YouTube channel, and just read the comments, and it is ruthless. A lot of those comments are very funny. One of my favorite comments, even at the time when the trailer first came out, was I think it was in the CGI trailer, where somebody said, the person who wrote this dialogue has a bright future as a drive-thru employee. And I thought that was hilarious. I'm sorry, it's funny. It's making fun of the people at Concord. Sorry, it's or Firewalk, it's funny. And then financial success. Oh boy, I mean, man, it's, again, it could not be more different. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that Astrobot was this gargantuan financial success. I'm not gonna delude myself. I'm not a PlayStation executive. I'm not gonna delude myself into believing something that isn't reality. Because Astrobot, when it came out, I think by the beginning of November, it had sold 1.5 million copies, which for a game that, this is the first time that Astrobot is getting a fully fleshed out non-VR game released for $60, released during a busy pre-holiday window, released on one console, by the way, a PS5, and it does not at all have the same kind of mass market appeal that a platform like Mario or Kirby or any of the Nintendo, hell, even Ratchet and Clank, it does not have the same pedigree that those franchises have. And yet, it still sold 1.5 million copies, which is very good. And that was before the holiday season, which, if you look right now, Astrobot is doing pretty damn well as far as sales. It was back in the UK physical charts for the month of November. I think either like the month of December or the month of November, which was great. It was like 10th place, but that's still great when you look at the juggernauts that are listed in that chart, which is normally dominated by Nintendo. You have it back in the top 10 on the paid PS5 games on the PlayStation Store, which is awesome. I'd love to see that. And I assume it did really well because of the Christmas season, where you have people buying PS5s for their kids or a loved one, and then they're gonna look and go, oh wow, I've heard so much about this Astrobot game. Here we go, I'm gonna buy it. Then you have Concord, which I don't even think saying it bombed spectacularly does this justice. Over the past few months, I have struggled to recall at any point in my lifetime witnessing a bomb on this scale in the video game landscape. I mean, there have been other notorious bombs released in the last few years, like Babylon's Fall, like Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Destruction All-Stars, to name another PlayStation live service. But to have Concord come out, do this so poorly that it defies belief, and then get shut down and turned into vaporware in 2 weeks after it came out. I think from one article, they estimated that it sold about 25,000 copies across PC and PS5. And that was even lower than my guess, where I thought it was gonna sell maybe 35,000 to 40,000 copies total. And they didn't even see, PlayStation didn't even see any point in trying to salvage this thing. Because they, not only did they go, well, we're gonna shut the game down, we're gonna give refunds, which is practically unheard of for PlayStation in a scenario like this. Normally, if a game shuts down after you spend money on it, it's kind of like tough shit. But whether in an attempt to kind of cover their ass or avoid some kind of legal blowback or whatever, they gave everybody refunds, even people that bought physical copies, which is crazy. Again, never seen anything like that before. And man, it's again, even after saying all this, it just defies belief that something this catastrophic happened to Concord. And now, I would actually argue that Concord was more valuable after its death, because people ran to go buy those physical copies. And now those physical copies go for a pretty decent markup on sites like eBay. So I would argue, again, Concord is probably more valuable dead than it ever was alive, which is amazing. And finally, we end with cultural relevance, where, yeah, This part is probably the most interesting to me because I feel like Concord and Astrobot represent a tug of war going on with PlayStation and its hardcore community at this point, where the hardcore community has been sold a line for a number of years that PlayStation is the home for high quality single player games, and we in an era where all these other publishers are chasing trends and doing live service shit, we're a safe haven for this kind of thing. But then you get Jimmy Boy, Ryan, and Herman Hulst coming in, and they look at the landscape and go, we want some of those too. It's not enough that we make 30% off the rips of every single live service thing that is sold, all the microtransactions that are sold on our storefront. No. We want 100%, because a great amount of money is not enough. We need all of the money. So they go hog wild on 10 to 12 live services. And then, as we all know, that did not work out, because now you have maybe 6 or 7 of those live services. Jim Ryan retired, in quotes, which the timing of that still is very suspicious in my mind. You have Herman Hulst coming in. I don't know how that man got a promotion when he's running around squeezing his nipples, yelling about how amazing Concord is, and just deluding himself into thinking this would be great. And then when Concord comes out, which is widely seen among the PlayStation community, people like me, as one of the big representatives of this Jim Ryan era live service push. And it's almost like, it's fascinating that it's almost seen as the enemy. And I kind of don't blame people for thinking that, because in a way it is. It's a game that sucked away internal resources from other things, like a new Sly Cooper, like Ape Escape, like a new SOCOM, like a new Warhawk, like Resistance. I could go on for like minutes at a time about all the franchises that are rotting in the dumpster because some genius at PlayStation decided to spend an absolutely bizarro amount of money on Concord, and a bizarre amount of money buying Bungie, thinking Bungie was going to be their light in the darkness, when in reality Bungie was like a flashlight that worked maybe 1 out of every 10 times at best. Buying studios like Haven, buying studios like Neon Koi, only to shut down Neon Koi without even getting a game out the door. At least fucking Firewalk got a game out the door before they were shut down. Neon Koi did nothing. You have them buying a team like Fire Sprite, which had 2 live services in the works, only to get canceled. And now you have the other side of the coin as far as the cultural relevance with Astrobot, where Astrobot is seen as, I would describe Concord as a vision of what PlayStation wants to be, and Astrobot as a vision of what PlayStation should be. Where Astrobot is a throwback to simpler times. It's not a game that's pimping you out for more money. It's not a game that demands your time. It demands you to fill in weekly challenges and daily challenges. It's a game that is just there. It exists in perpetuity. It's charming. It's responsibly made. It's stylish. It's idiosyncratic. It appeals to a very niche audience versus Concord, which is just boring and safe and chase trends to appeal to a mass audience and make as much money as possible, and irresponsibly budgeted because PlayStation had a delusional belief in it. It's focus tested into oblivion. It's just, these two games could not be more different. And thankfully we have a very happy ending for Astrobot, which has widely put Team Asobi, Team Asobi have realized the potential that I saw in them a number of years ago. And I feel like a proud sports agent, where I saw potential in a star player, and then that player goes on to hit 5 or 6 home runs in the World Series or something. Like, I feel like a proud papa when I look at Astrobot, because I saw potential in Astrobot a number of years ago. I want it known that I have been saying for years that Astrobot going the direction of Mario and making a fully, all they have to do is make a fully 3D platformer, and Astrobot is going to conquer the fucking world in the realm of PlayStation. And I was absolutely right. So this whole situation is just so interesting to me, the Astro-cord Dichotomy. I don't think we will ever see a situation like this happen again, at least in my lifetime. But I don't know, given PlayStation's, the Muppets they have running PlayStation right now, I don't know, it might happen sooner than I think. I don't know. But we'll see. And the final thing that I want to say, the final point of the year that I want to make is something I've said many times throughout this year, but it bears repeating one final time for 2024, because I see this constantly being brought up by diehard PlayStation loyalists to shield the company from criticism. And it's this notion that PlayStation needs live services to bankroll its stupidly expensive single-player games. And this drives me crazy whenever I hear this, because making reckless live service bets is not the solution to irresponsibly budgeting the big single-player games. The real solution is to dramatically rein in the scope and technical prowess of a lot of these games. We don't need flaming dumpster fires like Concord, because PlayStation refuses to cut back its erroneous spending. Do you guys want to know why? The secret behind why teams like Ryuga Gotoku and From Software release so many good games in such a short time is because they understand how to make games economically. They smartly reuse assets. They don't spend large amounts of money where it isn't necessary. They mostly don't care about extreme graphic detail. PlayStation doesn't seem to know the saying, work smarter, not harder. And I just think their priorities are all out of whack when it comes to games like Concord. And will the Astro-cord Dichotomy make any kind of difference? I have my extreme doubts, like I said. But it will definitely be interesting to see what they do in 2025, because seemingly you have things like Marathon coming out this year. You still got Fair Games in the Horizon multiplayer game in the Chamber. It'll be a fascinating few years once PlayStation has kind of fully assessed what they've learned, or what I assume haven't learned from the Astro-cord Dichotomy. But that will be a very interesting time indeed, and I will be here to observe it and maybe say some things about it and maybe laugh at it depending on what happens. So anyway, that's all I've got for the remainder of 2024. Have a happy new year, everyone. Hope you all had a really good holiday. Thank you so much for watching throughout 2024, and I will see you all next year. Goodbye.